Welcome to The Explainer. You know, we've all heard that saying, knowledge is power. But what if that's not the whole picture? Today, we're going to dig into the one skill that might just be more important than memorizing every fact in the book.
And this quote, wow, it just nails a massive problem with how we often approach education, right? It's like we're giving our kids all the ingredients for a cake, the flour, the sugar, the formulas, but we're totally forgetting to teach them how to actually bake, how to think. So let's jump right into this. We're faced with a really weird situation today. I mean, we are absolutely swimming in information, right? But somehow all that knowledge isn't making us more capable. So what's going on?
Just think about it for a second. We've basically thrown the kitchen sink at the younger generation. Books, data tables, physics laws, random historical dates, you name it. And the expectation is just memorize it, spit it back out on the test.
But here's the kicker. The one question we almost never ask is, hey, do you actually know what to do with all this? I mean, what happens when the neat and tidy problems from the textbook disappear and they're staring down a real, messy, unpredictable challenge? What then?
And this is where it gets really interesting. This gap, this disconnect between knowing and doing, it's not just some small thing. It actually sets off a chain reaction, a really predictable and kind of damaging downward spiral. Okay, so it all starts right here, with this tiny crack in the foundation. A student can, memorize a fact for a test. They can recite a formula perfectly. But that's just knowing. It's a whole different ballgame from truly understanding why it works or how it fits into the bigger picture.
And that gap, it leads straight to this next step. Yeah, sure, they pass the exam, they get the A, looks great on paper, but inside, deep down, there's this nagging feeling that they don't really get it. And that kind of success, it feels hollow. It doesn't build any real lasting confidence.
Which brings us to the final and, honestly, the most devastating stage. The day comes when they hit a real-world problem, where the textbook formula just doesn't work. And what happens? They feel completely helpless. They start to think, see, nothing works. And that feeling, that's what kills ambition. That's when they stop dreaming.
So, okay, if the problem is all this data but zero self-belief, what's the missing link? What's the piece of the puzzle we've overlooked? Well, the argument is that there's one single crucial element that's been left out of the entire equation.
And that missing piece is thinking. It's really not about cramming in more facts. It's about building the engine that can actually use all that information. The ability to see connections, to adapt on the fly, to solve problems that don't have a neat answer key. That is how you turn a pile of data into real power.
And this is so crucial. Without that skill, all that knowledge, it's basically useless. It just sits there. And what you're left with is a generation that doesn't feel any real power over their lives, no real sense of choice, and ultimately, no real way to build the future they want.
So naturally, this leads to the big question, right? If this whole memorization first model is broken, what's the alternative? What does a system that's actually built around thinking look like? All right, let's pivot and look at the solution. How do we actually create a different kind of learner? Someone who's an active player in their own education, not just a passive bucket to pour facts into.
The whole idea is to build a system where knowledge isn't some dead thing collecting dust in a textbook. No, it's a living, breathing tool that you can actually pick up and use. It's all about making information come alive.
And this is what that process actually looks like in practice. It's a constant, active loop. First, you think about the information. Then you connect it to what you already know. Use those connections to solve challenges, and then you apply it to real-life situations. And finally, the most important part, you act. That's how knowledge stops being just a fact and starts becoming a real skill.
Okay, so let's bring this all together. What's the ultimate takeaway? What's the real end goal when we shift our focus away from just collecting facts and toward actually building thinkers?
Well, it's about giving back the three things the old system can sometimes strip away. It's about giving our children the freedom to forge their own path, the confidence to know they can handle whatever life throws at them, and the real power to actually go out and shape their world.
And that, right there, is a total reframe of what success even means. The goal isn't the grade. The goal is the thinking. The final scorecard isn't the A+ on the report card. It's the strength, the creativity, and the resilience of their mind.
And that leaves us with one last and pretty urgent question to think about. In a world with AI, where literally any fact is just a search away, what's the one skill that's truly uniquely human?
What really matters? Well, it might just be the very thing we've been talking about this whole time, the ability to think.